Hey, welcome to the Side Action. I believe it's episode 19 of season 5. But my name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
Podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Hey, Action. So what's it been like for you this week? It's been kind of crazy. It's been a weird week. Must have been some Mercury in retrograde or something. It's been nuts.
Yeah, wild week too. Week one of 2023. I guess you'll have that. Just trying to get back and catch up on work
Mhm.
mostly. And I know you've been traveling, so I can imagine that it was even more hectic for you.
Yeah, it's first of all, great New Year's Eve party. Had a blast at the Drake. So that was awesome with a bunch of friends and close friend that came with me. That was really fun. And then Sunday kind of was sleeping it off, a little
Yeah.
hungover. Um, Watched some games and it was not a greatest week, unfortunately. But and then I traveled Monday to Colorado to visit my dad a little bit before the business trip, which was all in one. And you know how I work. Mondays, I'm like at the computer. It was kind of weird working at my dad's because he doesn't have, like I said, no Wi-Fi. I'm kind of doing it on whatever, doing
Yeah.
hotspot, even though I get terrible reception out there. So I'm trying to do my work, and we're watching we're about to flip on the game, and this crazy thing happened with Damar Hamlin, and
Yeah.
I didn't get to see the play live. I was trying to figure out what happened. It was like 20 minutes or whatever into the game, like real time, not game time. And it just it sets the whole week. Now nobody knows what's happening, like both with him physically and thankfully he's recovering. He can speak, and my God, I mean that's so everybody's happy about that. But more importantly, like, for everybody around us, like nobody knows what to do. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
how do you respond? And so I'm happy he's doing well. And the NFL, I think they voted today. I don't know. You probably have the latest. But so they're not going to play the Cincinnati Buffalo game anymore.
Right.
Not going to. They just kind of canceled the game officially, and that's going to affect how things happen in the league. And that affects everybody betting and other stuff. But what's the latest? Did they end up deciding to approve the neutral site of the AFC Championship game? Is that what they went with, or?
I I believe that the vote is sometime this evening. I don't think
Oh,
it's occurred yet. Last I read, I thought it was 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern time. So
got it.
I don't know if the league has actually ratified the proposal or not,
Mhm.
but I would expect that it will go through. And as you alluded to, it's going to throw some really weird scenarios in for the playoffs this season. I haven't personally quite wrapped my whole brain around them. What I do know is that the game is canceled, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
and all three teams at the top in the AFC, Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo, now have everything to play for because of the way that the records are situated. Both Buffalo and Cincinnati need to win in order to secure a neutral site game if they were to reach the AFC Championship.
Right, right. I should restate. The most important thing is he's healthy, or he's going to be. He's living.
Yep,
He's getting better. Anything
definitely.
that happens around it doesn't really matter. I just said more importantly, in mistakenly, but but yeah. I mean, I guess the proposal is this neutral site. If it's going to be Kansas City and the Bills again, depending on what happens this weekend, Cincinnati could be in the mix. Plus Cincinnati with the division. Coin flip
Yeah, if
if
they lose.
Cincinnati doesn't take care of business this weekend, then they're subject to a coin flip if they play. Who are they going to play? It's just fascinating. So
Yeah,
I've
it
never
is.
seen anything like this, of course, in the game or have the NFL ever do this. I mean, even in the COVID year when we had those weird reschedulings, they always kind of figured it out. Maybe they got lucky the way it played out. This has just been weird. So as a result, full disclosure action, my research stopped as of that moment. So I've done nothing since then because I didn't know what to do, when they were going to play it, what I was going to do. And so I'm gonna have limited information. And plus it's week 18. Like we'll go into the week 17 recap a little bit, but week 18 means like, bedlam. Who knows what to expect going to these
Yeah,
games. We'll talk more about it later. So For the quick recap, and I guess other injuries we should mention, I mean, Lamar Jackson's not going to play. There's a ton of people not playing this week, which I guess we can talk handicap by handicap. It's just a weird week when it comes to that stuff. So you're putting something right here. Bridgewater.
Yeah, Teddy also not going to play. I think he got a hand injury of some kind, and it looks like it's going to be Skylar Thompson.
But did
And
you know
they,
that they brought up Mike Glennon up to
I was just going to
the
say that
Bears?
too. Yeah, Mike Glennon, I think he's going to be the backup. I don't know how anybody could be worse than Skylar Thompson though. So who knows what they're going to do in
But
Miami?
don't worry, action. We've got Joe Flacco on the Jets side for startings. It's insane.
Yeah,
Let's go into last week's games. The Steelers, you know, what can we say? Thank you for covering Pittsburgh Steelers, even though it's a complete cardiac. Sorry, I shouldn't use that term anymore. It's a complete situation where it shouldn't have happened, and it kept our hearts, racing at the end. Um, the Ravens were winning the whole game, even though it was really low scoring. And Kenny Pickett, last drive, takes Steelers down there, 90-yard drive, touchdown. So they were actually going to not cover in the game, right? It was 10-6, right? And then they end up winning the game outright. So they cover the 2.5 for us. Thank you, Kenny Pickett and Mike Tomlin.
yeah. What a game on Sunday night! It was really a great watch. I mean, if you like defensive football and low scoring, the under was a rocking chair winner, and we can't say the same for our Steelers tickets.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks in a row. I mean,
Yeah,
thankfully they did cash in both regards, but man, I mean, we'll see what happens this weekend. They play the Browns. So on the negative side, we were pretty much on the wrong side of all these losses here. We had the Eagles -5.5 at home versus the Saints. Seemed like a good ticket until they started playing, and Minshew did not have the magic that he did in Dallas. He looked bad. In fact, I don't even know if they got a first down in the first quarter. Definitely not, didn't do well in the first half. The Saints weren't like juggernauts, but they scored enough and won this game pretty easily over the Eagles, putting the Eagles in a bad position. If they lose this weekend, not only will they lose the number one seed, they could lose the division and get on the road in the playoffs.
yeah, that would be quite the turn of events. I mean, they have it all to play for. Thankfully for them, the Giants have little to play for, and that's reflected in the point spread. So I know we'll talk about that in the next segment.
Right. The Texans, well, the Jags decided to play their guys, and play they did. They destroyed the Texans. This is a matchup we talked about traditionally. Texans, even as bad as they've been, cover this situation. They did not. The Jags look really good. They're going, even though the game meant nothing to the Jags, they are going full bore into this game against the Titans this week. And I mean, let's face it, they're playing great football.
Yeah, yeah, they look awesome. And on the other side, the Texans looked like a team that were trying to lose because they still need another loss to sew up that number one pick.
Yeah, because the Bears are right there with them, right? And then the Jets. Oh man, the Jets were 1.5 point favorites at Seattle. Let's give Seattle some credit. They played really well in this game. They came out of the gates firing. Pete Carroll was fired up, chewing his gum as hard as possible on the sideline. Uh, and they destroyed the Jets. This game wasn't close. I was hoping that there'd be a comeback, and that Mike White did not get it done. The defense just didn't play very good early in the game, and that's all that mattered. And unfortunately, the Jets' offense continued to sputter, and they lost outright, pretty badly.
Yeah, somewhat of a step back for Mike White too. I think, part of that was due to his rib injury, and part of that just due to him not being quite the superstar quarterback that he was made out to be in that couple week run that he had midseason.
Right. Last game we picked were the Bengals. They were leading 7-3, as we said. It was canceled. The way the contest treated it was to give everybody a half a point or a tie, so that he's finished 1-3-1. Didn't have the greatest other picks either. Lots of games were just not going the right ways this week. So what can be said? What can you do? But overall, underdogs, 8-7 to the number this week, and then the unders have still reigned supreme, 8-6-1. There were 4 games that were determined by the spreads, so that's starting to get a little bit more common, it seems, as we go, and the books are getting better with those numbers.
Betters, perhaps, in some cases. We're shaping those
Maybe,
numbers, not the bookmakers.
maybe. I mean, if you're taking those underdogs, right? Let's go into Week 18 action. And again, as we approach this, there's a couple things to consider. There's a lot of seeding going on for teams. There's people that obviously are still trying to get into the playoffs. And then the third tier is, like you said, some of them may be intentionally losing for draft picks, like the Bears and the Texans. So there's a lot of different ways to look at these games. And admittedly, I've not done a ton of research on the spreads because I think a lot of it is it's going to be feel what we think is going to happen here, right?
Yeah, I mean, more so than any other week in the football season, you really have to focus in on what each individual team's motivations are. Are they trying
Mm,
to lose? Are they trying to win? Are
right.
they trying to rest? Are they trying to build some momentum going into the playoffs? I think that's a fourth tier that a lot of coaches and organizations don't really take that approach, but we've seen it before with the New York Giants is in 2007, that season where they went into week 17, as it were, against the Patriots, thinking they were going to get smashed. And they
Hmm.
actually played pretty well in that game and ended up parlaying that performance into a run in the playoffs. And they beat New England in the Super Bowl. So
Yeah,
we could see it again from the Giants.
you could. Not just the Giants, there's other teams involved, right? So let's start off. There's two games on Saturday, and the rest are going to be on Sunday. There's no Monday night game this week
Right?
and that's the national championship game, which I guess I didn't put on the agenda. Actually, we probably shouldn't talk about that for college football. So the first game on the docket is the Chiefs and the Raiders. The Chiefs open as a 9.5 point favorite on the road, 52 point total. It's 9 in the contest, 52.5 point total. So the Chiefs are in one of these unique positions, like we mentioned. If they win, they kind of put the situation where they're basically going to be like, wait, is this how it works? Let me think. Right now, the Bills still hold the tiebreaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the Bills win, then they would. Is it Bills and Chiefs win? They do the neutral thing. Is that
Right.
right?
The Chiefs would still have the number one seed and the bye,
Okay,
most importantly. But the key differentiator would be is if they both make it to the AFC Championship,
got it,
then due to the canceled game, the NFL is proposing that to be a neutral site and not in Kansas City.
got it.
Of
So even
course, that
though
is clutch, but I think the bye is equally as important to Kansas City at this point.
yeah, the bye is important. Plus, the Bills did go to Kansas City to win. You'd figure they'd get some, kudos for that. But what are you going to do? So the Chiefs still are motivated to win. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't talk about Stidham, who played well against the 49ers last week. Do you think that, uh, like Minshew, like some of these other quarterbacks in their second start, that maybe there's a little bit of regression here? I mean, I know that obviously the Chiefs have had troubles covering numbers all season,
Hmm.
especially this
Hmm.
big number. But, they're not really motivated to win the game, but certainly people are playing for contracts. So what's your take on this handicap?
I think I have every expectations. The Raiders are going to put up some points again this week. Stidham
Mhm.
played really well last week, and we have seen it reflected in this total now up to 52 and a half in some spots. And for that reason, I think that you only have to look at the Raiders here. Couple
Yeah,
that with the fact that the Chiefs are horrible at covering point spreads in this vicinity. I am kind of shocked that it is such a high number, and I think it's just reflective of the quote unquote must win scenario. So I like the
right.
Raiders and the points here.
Raiders definitely. I've also heard some sharps on the under here, which sounds a little strange
Mhm.
because these teams can score, but maybe Stidham does take a little back step and it's not quite as a light show as it was against the 49ers. So, okay, we could probably yellow up the Raiders here.
Okay. I mean, I got to say, incredibly uh, strong performance against the number one defense in San Francisco last week.
No
I mean, if you
doubt.
can do that against San Francisco, presumably you're going to be able to do a similar performance against Kansas City's defense.
I do think that our proxy already sold his Derek Carr jersey and switched to a Stidham jersey, or at least used a
Sold or
marker or
burned.
something. Like some black electric tape on the back over the Carr stuff, something like that. So.
Nice.
All right, the next game, which is the Saturday night primetime game, sort of cool. I wish it was this Monday night primetime game, to be honest with the action. Titans are going to the Jags. The Jags open as a 6.5 point favorite. It's 6 in the contest. The total's from 38.5 up to 40. The winner of this game will make the playoffs as the AFC South champ. The Jags still have a chance to make the playoffs with some other things happening, but they control their destiny. If they win, they're in. Titans are basically out if they lose. So, I like the Jags. I do. Is 6 too much? Hard to say. I mean, the Titans, this team is, I mean, are they going to start Dobbs this week?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
He played better than Willis. I'll give you that.
Mhm.
But man, 6 points. God damn it, action. I wanted to take this game, but I don't know.
What
Is it
did,
too many points?
which side did you want to take? The
The
Jaguars?
Jags. The
Yeah.
Jags. I can't go Titans, man. I can't.
Well, I have a personal confliction on this game because, as you may recall, I bet on the Jaguars to win the division early on at 300 plus, and so me personally, I took 7 actually with Tennessee early in the week when I saw it
Mm,
pop, and I thought that was a good opportunity to me to get a little hedge down. And
sure.
quite frankly, as I dive into this game a little bit more, I think that even the 6 is a little bit too much.
Right.
This is such a huge game. I think that we're going to see some pressure on the Jaguars here. And as the home favorite, with the team with all the expectations to win, I think that 6 is going to be a little bit of a difficult ask for them.
Mm,
And combine that with the fact that Derrick Henry got his week off last week, you pretty much count that as a bye for the Tennessee Titans, despite Dobbs playing. Most of the regular starters were rested, and Vrabel coming off of a bye is dynamite. So I think that Tennessee is going to have a pretty good game plan here, and I like the underdog here with the points.
okay. Well, it's a tough one, man. And I understand what you're saying. I totally agree with the logic. I'm just looking at the Jags schedule down the stretch here. Obviously, the Cowboys game, remember that one? That was a high scorer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they beat the Ravens in a close one, beat the Raiders, pretty close game. Texans, they lost. So they actually haven't had that many home games of late. They played a lot of road games and been kind of those road warriors. They've been killing it on the road. So, which is funny because it's the contrary to what we say that I'm sorry to use it. It's obviously the stripper handicap. I don't think Vrabel's going to have those guys out late night on Friday for
Yeah,
this one. So,
true.
so probably the Titans are pass, I guess. I don't know if I can get on board though. I'm afraid that they can't score in this game. So
It's fair.
maybe we pass. If you're really convicted on it, I prefer to pass. I think personally.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of other games on the slate that we can look at. I do like the under since you mentioned it. I think that game was such a high stakes. It's a second divisional game. Going
Yep.
under 40 is a pretty good number there.
Right. Okay, in the 1 o'clock window for Sunday, you've got the Vikings against the Bears. The Vikings open as a 1 point favorite with a 45-point total, then a massive move to 7.5 on the road in Chicago for a 43-point total, mainly probably to Nathan Peterman starting, right? The cannon known as Nathan Peterman. Um, the Bears offense has been incredible with Fields. The defense is terrible. We know that. The Vikings are like the worst team to cover numbers. So I am happily to stay away from this one action, even though I think the Vikings are probably ultimately the right side here. I just 7.5. I mean, come on, bro. This defense
Yeah.
is terrible too, although Peterman's garbage.
Yeah. There's no way that you're going to get me to lay 7.5 with the Vikings in this
Right.
game. It's either Chicago or pass for sure. I'm just not sure what to expect out of Peterman. So, I mean, I make this 4.5 on a neutral.
Mhm.
That's with Fields in the lineup, obviously. So that you got to
Right.
ask yourself, what's the downgrade? And you know, I don't really think that Minnesota is well suited to go on the road and play in this outdoor environment in Chicago with very
Right.
little to play for. Can they even improve their seating? Uh,
Uh, let's think this through. Technically, they probably can, but
Okay, slim
it's going to
chance.
take, I mean, they've got to have San Francisco lose, right?
Hmm.
Because, I mean, they have 4 losses. The
Yeah,
Eagles could drop to 4 losses, but then again, they beat them head to head. So the best they could probably hope for is that let's see,
2 seed,
2 seed's
perhaps.
the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, yeah, I think they still play for the 1 seed, dude. Because if you think about it, let me look at the standings real quick. Sorry to just, pontificate while I'm just America, the 75,000 listeners that we have every week
Hmm.
are waiting for me to figure this out. Let's see, NFC, here we go. Here's my situation. They've got 4 losses, so does the 49ers. 49ers are a better conference record, and they will have a better conference record. So if they win and the 49ers lose, they could pass the 49ers. The Eagles, they would tie with a loss. The problem is if the Cowboys jump them, they get that spot and they've beaten them. So I think that the
Yeah.
Cowboys, they have 4 losses. God, that's an interesting. I think that they might just stay in the 3 spot. So the best they can hope for is a 49ers loss and the Eagles still win and they kind of jump the 49ers, you know. So 2 seed is the best I think they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm not sure I want to be betting on the Bears. I think you're on track
Yeah,
with me.
no way.
So,
No, that's why it's a little
yeah.
sidestep action. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So Ravens against the Bengals. This is a big game. Obviously, both playoff teams. Technically speaking, the Ravens could theoretically get the division, I guess, is what's happening now. Bengals open as a 6-point favorite. They're up to 7.5 now. 42-point total in the opener now. So, what's his name? Huntley's going to start again. We know Lamar Jackson's out. He's been banged up too. Hasn't played well. Could barely throw the ball last week. That's where you see the move from 6 to 7.5. You got to figure the Bengals are highly motivated, but shit, man, this number's big, bro. This is what's killing me this week 18.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Do you think that the Bengals can keep this game? I'm sorry, the Ravens can keep this game close enough for that 7.5, or this is just a Bengals all the way?
Not enough to bet on it. No, I think I've seen all I need to from Huntley. And if while he's still under center, I just don't have any trust in this Baltimore Ravens running or offense.
Right.
And so I really like the Bengals on a teaser. This is a team that I'm going to
Yeah.
key into a bunch of teasers this week, although I would caution folks not to get too crazy on the teasers because there's so much variance here in week 18. Um, I like the under a lot in this game as well. I just have seen enough from the Baltimore Ravens recently, and the under run I think is going to continue here at 42 points, but
Right.
probably a pass for the contest.
Just so you know, in the market that I'm seeing action, the Bengals are up to 9, so it's even
Wow.
more than 7.5. Just to keep
Yeah.
that. But if you want to pass, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, we can let's highlight it in an off-color yellow,
Off
perhaps.
color, like
We
a
need to come back
mustard
to it.
yellow,
Yeah, yeah,
Colonel Mustard in Cincinnati against the Ravens. I like it.
yeah.
Well, this one's you've got it highlighted in red. I'm not sure what that means yet, but we've got the next one. You got the Patriots against the Bills. The Patriots or Bills open as an 8-point favorite, 42.5 point total. It's a 42.5 point total. So what's NA? So is it pulled off the card for Circa?
That's right. You nailed it. Yeah, Circa announced when they dropped the lines yesterday, given all the uncertainty surrounding the Buffalo football team, that they're not going to provide a line and it's not going to be added to the contest this week. So
Oh,
unavailable for picking.
that stinks because in the end, I would have been all over the Bills here,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, we can still bet it at any number of shops that have the number posted. It looks like 7 mostly across the board right now. So, do you think that Buffalo is going to get focused here? Because I know they haven't been practicing a lot this week.
I know, but I do think the Bills own this Patriots team first and foremost. I think that's the biggest thing. Besides, once they got that loss last year at midseason, they've
Mhm.
just completely throttled the Patriots in the last 3 matchups. Now the Patriots are highly motivated as well. They win and they're in the playoffs. So it's and then if they lose, they just got to sit and wait and hope that everything else falls their way. But the Bills, they got to figure they're highly motivated. They'll know if the Chiefs have won.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. But also, I just think they're going to play inspired football for their brother, who's still going to be in the hospital and all. So I just find that I understand why they pulled it off. I get it, but
Yeah.
maybe everybody would have taken the Bills. Just that's what people would have done.
Yeah. I mean, at one point this week, there was some uncertainty as to whether or not Buffalo would even want to play this game in week
Yeah.
18. So, I
Mhm.
think that was part of the reason. I personally am just going to be passing on this game altogether. I'm just going to wait for the playoffs in terms of Buffalo wagers.
Okay. All right. We've got the ambulance too. Actually, and you were waiting for that. You haven't heard
Timely.
that in a minute. Edgewater Studio. Okay, so Carolina is going to the Saints. The Saints are 5-point favorites at home. Went down to 3.5 in the contest. The total ticked up from 39.5 to 41.5. We didn't talk about this in the open, but the Panthers kind of blew it. I mean, they had a real
Yeah.
good shot last week to not only they wouldn't have won the division last week, but they'd been in a position to win. They were up big on um, Tampa Bay, but Mike Evans, 3 big touchdowns, 200 yards. Where was this all year? There it is. And so, what can be said? I mean, I guess the secondary injuries for the Panthers maybe moving this line. Is that why it's going, or at least the total's going up?
Yeah, I think so. I've heard a couple of folks this week already suggest that the total looks a little bit short,
Hmm.
and I think that there's some validity to that, given the way that Darnold has been playing quarterback. And this Carolina Panthers offense has been putting up some points lately. In terms of the side, I make it 2 on a neutral for New Orleans, so going through the 3 is probably about perfect. I don't really see an edge either way with the dog or the favorite in this one.
Yeah, me neither. I don't like the game, so we're passing on a lot here. Actually, we're gonna have to
Yeah,
find some at some point. But yeah,
that's all right.
pass on this one. Another NFC South gem in the Bucks, who have locked up the division, playing Atlanta, and the Bucks can't improve their position at any point, even winning this game. So Tom Brady says he's going to start, but I don't know how long he's going to play. The Falcons open as a 7-point favorite. Is that really okay? Down to 4 in the contest, from 38 and a half up to 40 and a half. Maybe that's because Tom's going to play in the first half, and then it could be who are they going to play? They're not going to play Gabbert, right? They're going to play the young guy, maybe
I can't even tell
Trask.
it. I'm not even sure who the backup is. Is it Kyle Trask? That
It's
would make sense.
Trask. He's
Might as
supposed
well
to
see the guy.
play or something like that. And if he doesn't, um, is that his name, Kyle Trask? That's right.
Yep.
And then, but maybe they'll have a cornucopia of players, and you got the old Desmond Ritter show, who hasn't thrown a touchdown pass so far or
Mhm.
run for one. So a real great game action. I like the under.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people do, given the tick down to what, 40, I think, last I looked before we jumped on here, 40 and a half in a couple of
Yeah.
spots. If you
Yeah.
could get a 41, that's certainly key, but I don't think it's going to be moving in that direction. I did lay 3 with the Falcons here just because of the lack of motivation. I know you mentioned that Brady is starting, but I don't expect to see this cadre of wide receivers very much in this game. If they start, I think it'll be a series at the most
Right.
because you have Godwin and Evans and Julio, who are aging wide receivers, and they
Oh,
need
yeah.
to get them healthy for the next week.
And
So
they're
I think
playing.
that even at 4, there's some value with the Falcons.
Right. No, I think so too. So I guess we can yellow it. Can we put that same mustardy,
Yeah,
crappy
I
yellow in
like it.
there?
I like
Thank
it.
you. All right, here we go. Texans Colts. This is another great AFC South championship, non-championship game, I should say.
Toilet bowl.
Uh, so the Texans go to the Colts. The Colts are 2.5-point favorites at home. The total is from 39 down to 38. And in the contest, it's 2.5 as well. Wow, man. This is an awful game. I know this is your squad. I'm sorry that you had to endure this season action. Jeff Saturday hopefully will not be coaching on next Sunday next year. Um, but the Texans want to lose, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it's 2.5's not a bad number if you're supposed to win, but I hate this Colts team this year, man. They really let me down.
Yeah, I know. I think that there is motivation for both teams to lose in this game. The Colts can still improve their draft position, and
Mhm.
by losing, they give the possibility that the Bears can slide into the top spot
That's
and
right.
thereby block their divisional foe from getting a top quarterback in
Hmm.
next year's draft. Although it's really hard to predict that a team is just going to lay down in front of their home fans. And I don't expect that Jeff Saturday will sign up for that. And so I don't really have a great expectation that Indy will try to lose straight out. I do think that scoring is going to be very difficult in this football game. So I like the under a lot, even at 38. Um, as far as the side goes, it's really tough to make a play, I think.
Is John Taylor, he's done for the year?
Yeah, Taylor's out for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that Nick Foles got hurt last week on that sack by Thibodeau.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
He was doing
and
the
the
snow
ensuing
angel next to
snowman,
him.
snow angel. Yeah. Jeff Saturday didn't like that very much, and
No,
Thibodeau has no idea who Jeff Saturday is. So
right.
there's
He's
your feedback on that one.
exactly.
I think it's going to be Ellinger under center, who
Okay.
has got to be better than Nick Foles, but still have no interest in betting on the Colts at 2.5.
Yeah, for real. Okay. Well, let's just pass this one, man.
Yep.
Jeez. All right, how about the Browns and the Steelers, baby? Steelers, 3-point favorites on the opener. Now 2.5. The total went from 39 and a half to 40. Is this a sucker play action? The Steelers are going to win, right? I mean, first of all, Tomlin, he's a guy he can keep his non-losing season alive. They could tie and he still could get there.
True.
And I mean, Watson's been bad. The Browns have been bad. It's just the Steelers just don't score a lot of points. It's just hard to. I mean, this is the exact same situation the last couple of weeks. Oh,
Yeah.
they're going to cover. So I'd be on the Steelers because it's 2.5. That's the only reason. If it was 3, not a chance because they'll probably push us anyway. But I'm sure you're going to love the Browns, aren't you?
I do like the Browns. I took 3 when it popped earlier this week, but I don't know that any threes exist anymore in the market. I could see it toggle back and forth though. Really, if you're interested in the Browns, I would wait. There's really it's asymmetric risk here just to wait and see if you can get a 3 if you want to bet on the Browns. I don't think I would want to take 2.5 in the contest, but I don't think I want to lay it with Pittsburgh either
Yeah, it's
because
been a
I
roller coaster.
think I think the Browns are going to have some motivation to knock the Steelers out of the playoffs. I
Sure,
know they
sure.
have like very slim chances, but a win for Cleveland here, I think, is something that they'd be interested in.
That's true. Now, they did beat the Steelers pretty good early in the season, but okay, we'll agree to disagree on that one. And another stay away. Well, we'll get a couple picks at some point, actually, this week.
Maybe.
Okay, we've talked about the Jets Dolphins game already a little bit. The Jets are going to the Dolphins, still in the 1 o'clock window. The Finns are open as a 4-point favorites, and now in the contest, the Jets are favored.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
41 and a half
-1.
down to 38 and a half. So this must be due to the quarterbacking, but I don't know, man. The Jets with Flacco, they're favored on the road. They played like garbage. I don't know, man. The Dolphins are in a situation where they have to win and New England has to lose for them to get in. So highly motivated spot. We know Tua is not going to play. Um, I don't know. Is that what's in the marketplace now, dude? I mean,
I'm just confirming on Circa's website. It's definitely Jets -1. And I'm looking at my odds screen now and seeing
Fins up.
Miami 2-point favorites across the board. So the market apparently likes the Blaine Gabbert elevation.
Well, it's not Blaine. It's Skylar Thompson or Mike Glennon.
Oh, Glennon, sorry. Wrong washed up quarterback.
I I think you got to go with the Finns here, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a value pick. I think everybody's going to pick it in the contest given where things are going, but I don't. Even if let's say full strength here, Jets playing their best football against the Dolphins. This is a tough spot for the Jets. I mean, they're going to. I was on them a couple weeks saying, oh, they can make the playoffs, blah blah blah. They have not played well for weeks on offense. Defense is usually pretty good. Last week, not so good. This is a better offense, and I know Skylar Thompson's not good, but you're not gonna be that bad against the Jets.
Oh man, I have a really hard time betting on Skylar Thompson though.
I
He's
know.
been so bad. I mean, if I knew that Glennon was going to play and get some time, even though was he on the practice squad or was he
That's
just
what they
signing
said.
off
They
the
elevated
street?
him from the
Okay.
practice squad. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so at least he knows the offense. I mean, obviously there's some bettors in this market who think that Miami is going to do something, but maybe it's just a straight up fate of the Jets too because they are out, right?
Yeah, they're out.
No
They can't,
chance.
no chance.
So,
They've been
I mean,
eliminated last week.
this is a team who's been playing for the last 4 to 5, 6 weeks, who thought they had a legitimate shot at the playoffs, and now a demoralizing loss in Seattle. You're traveling to South Beach for Week 18. Perhaps the Jets are just going to lay down in this game.
And something has to give. I mean, the Finns have lost 5 in a row. The Jets have lost 5 in a row, I think, too. It's been a rough road for both these teams that were looking like, NFL darlings early in the season for both of us. We were on at least on the Jets early, but yeah, 1, 2, 3, yep, 5 losses. There you go. Jets were 7-4 at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, wow. So, all right, I'm on the Finns there.
I think you're right. It's going to be a popular pick, but
Yeah.
you know,
We're just finishing it out. Let's try to
true.
finish strong.
That's true.
Okay, Dallas. In the 4 o'clock window, we've got Dallas at the Commanders. The Commanders, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Cowboys open as a 6-point favorite on the road, now up to 7 in the contest, from the total from 42 to 41. Two things about last week that we didn't mention. So they started Carson Wentz. He was awful. three
Yeah.
really bad interceptions. I don't know if you heard his post game. He's like, they're like, hey, about what were you thinking on the interception? He's like, which one? The other thing was like Ron Rivera. I'm sure you saw this on the meme. He's like, Ron, so Coach Rivera, if Green Bay wins and you're eliminated, would that have changed your decision making thinking? And he's like, eliminated? So the
Classic.
Commanders got eliminated last week because with Green Bay winning and them losing, and they're going back to Heineke this week. So a little bit crazy.
Actually, I think it's going to be Sam Howell. Actually,
Oh,
I'm
really?
reading the
Okay,
rookie quarterback will finally make his debut, and
nice.
I I think I like the move. Um, I think the Commanders are going to be a little live here, to be honest with you. 7 points with a defense that I would expect is not going to quite lay down. This is still a rivalry game.
Yep.
And I liked Sam Howell in college, and I think that he's going to be an upgrade over definitely over Wentz, perhaps even on par with Heineke in terms of ability. So I don't
Well,
know.
the
What do you
other
think
thing
about
you got to
that?
consider is that even though the games are at the same time, the Eagles are playing at the same time as the Giants, they're going to be
Hmm.
scoreboard watching, right?
Yeah.
If they can't move up unless the Eagles lose, and they're also secure in their position, with the 5 seed regardless. So if they win the game and the Eagles lose, yes, they can jump up and win the division and get up, host a playoff game. But let's say the Eagles come out and they're winning 14-0 or whatever in the second half. How hard are they going to play? So
Yeah.
at 7 points does seem like too much. So I guess we're back on the Commanders. Damn
Yeah,
it.
the back door will certainly be open in this one, I believe. And, we touched on it the last several weeks. This Cowboys defense is not the same defense that started the season. I think injuries have finally caught up to them. So, what better way to gear up for the playoffs but to rest some of those guys here or not play quite as hard? And so, I think that's going to happen.
I agree. I agree. Okay, Chargers going to the Broncos. The Chargers open as a 3-point favorite. In this one, 41-point total. The total's down to 40, and then is it really flipped to the Broncos -3? Is that true?
That's right.
So interesting situation, I suppose. But because the Chargers technically can move up, but I guess, they must be resting Herbert. Is that the story?
I have not seen any news on Herbert. I what I've heard though is that the Chargers are prefer to be in their position, whether I think it's 5 seed,
Okay,
perhaps just based on the way that appears the bracket is going to shake out
right.
to make it an easier path into the playoffs. And so
Okay.
I think that odds makers and bettors alike are expecting that the Chargers will try to lose this game
Hmm.
to maintain their playoff seeding,
So I
ironic as it
guess
is.
I just have to think that through. They're the 5 seed, but here, let's see what this works. The 5 seed, they could only move down because they can't move up, right?
Hmm.
So they could
Hmm.
move down. If they lose, they would, instead of playing the Jags, then they would play like one of the top three. That doesn't make sense to me. And then when did the Bengals play? The Bengals play later, right? Or they already played with it. Yeah, the Bengals played. I guess they already know the outcome at that point.
Hmm.
Because if,
Because of
if the Ravens lose, then they're definitely locked into the 5 seed. So we know
right.
that. If
Exactly.
they, yeah, okay. So that's the thought process. So, but the
And
Broncos, huh?
and for
That,
that reason, I heard on a podcast earlier that a Cincinnati Bengals money line parlay to the Denver Broncos -3 is going to be a very good look because, as you mentioned, if the Bengals win, then the Chargers seed is locked up. They're going to get that 5 seed and presumably play the Jags or Titans. And
yeah,
so if we see the Bengals win, there's a good chance that this 3 point spread currently for the Denver Broncos might be trending towards 6 or 7 because the Chargers will definitely lay down at that point. So
right.
I think that I already put it in Bengals money line to the Broncos spread pays like a little bit over plus money. And
Yeah,
I think it's worth a shot.
sure. Sounds good. So, but would
You don't
you
want to
be on
lay
in the
three.
contest? Question. Would you be on in the contest?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, we already talked about how we like the Bengals this week. So
Yeah, we
if we
did.
like the Bengals and we think that this number is going to be 6 or 7 by kickoff, lane 3 is some value.
Little parlay for the side action. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right.
Yellow. Maybe turns into green soon. Okay, Arizona going to the 49ers in the 4 o'clock window. The 49ers open as a 13-point favorite. It's 14 in the contest, the total from 40 to 40 and a half. Now, the 49ers, as we discussed, they can still be the one seed, actually. If
Hmm.
they win their game and the Eagles lose, they're going to be the one seed. It's pretty simple. So they're playing at the same time as the Eagles. Um, I don't know. 14 is a lot of points, dude. I think there's a really good football team. Last week kind of scared me because a pretty, I guess they're pretty good offense, but with the backup quarterback, young guy, they kind of got lit up, and it was weird. So I don't like Arizona at all, but they actually played pretty well last week. They covered their number against Atlanta, but certainly not the same caliber team.
Yeah, David Blau playing starting at quarterback again for the Cardinals. But I'm with you. I think laying 14 is a lot here, but I also have no interest in backing the Cardinals here in the last week of the season. So it's a pass for me as well.
Okay, easy.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got the Giants going to the Eagles. The Eagles open as a 10-point favorite at home. Now it's 14. 40 and a half point total and up to 43 total now. And so the 14 points laid by the Eagles in this one, I don't know, man. I think it's too many points. I
Mhm.
don't really think the Eagles, it's not just, I don't think their defense is playing good, but as much as I'm assuming they'll probably sit Daniel Jones, at least Saquon Barkley, but I mean, they can't improve their seeding, obviously, the Giants, but they're salty. They're going to the playoffs. They don't want to be laying down for their opponent that's in their division. So I'd probably be on the Giants here.
Yeah, I love the Giants in this game. 14, I think, is way too many points. And this Jalen Hurts, I believe, is slated to come back and play, but
Yeah,
he's been nursing a shoulder injury, and I can't imagine that the Eagles are going to put him into too many harm's way in terms of his running because they need to get him healthy into the playoffs.
right.
So the one big advantage that the Eagles offense has is Jalen Hurts and his ability to run the football, and I just don't see that happening this week. You add into the fact that 2, 3 years ago, I think it was, the Eagles, you probably remember the Sunday night game on week
Yeah,
18. They had a chance to, I think it was Washington that they were playing. They had a chance. Jalen Hurts was playing that night.
it
And
was.
if they won that game, the Giants would have made the playoffs, but they sat Jalen Hurts in the second half.
I
And
remember.
and brought in that former Indiana quarterback, and they lost the game, and the Giants were knocked out, and they were none too pleased about that. So
Yeah, that
I
was
think
crazy.
that the Giants are going to be looking for a little bit of payback on Sunday.
Are we going green here?
Yeah, yeah, I like the Giants a lot. I like
I,
them. I took plus 9.5 in the first half as well with the Giants. I think that there's value there, and definitely a second half bet or 14 is also in play for sure.
yeah. I do think now looking back, and they missed on the opportunity of doing the Giants last week because they just laid the wood last week. But
Yeah,
too late.
I bet on the Colts last week.
All right, that's okay. Uh, if you'd have gone against us last week, you'd have done great. So the Rams in the 4 o'clock window, the Rams going to the Seahawks. Seahawks open as a 5.5 point favorite. It's six in the contest from 41 and a half, staying at 41 for the total, 41 and a half for total. So interesting, the Seahawks aren't guaranteed a spot. So if they win, they still have to watch the Green Bay Detroit game. They would eliminate the Lions if they win. So they obviously have a possibility of making some hay here. The Rams, it's hard to say who this team is. And they played pretty well of late, but the Seahawks obviously took care of business the first time they played. I just don't really trust what happened last week with the Jets. So I'm not really sure, even though it's a home game, I can't really lay those 6 points in this
Mhm.
game action. So it'd be Rams or pass, and I'd be happy to walk away from the Rams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that sentiment. Rams are pass. I think though the Rams have had their number. I think
Hmm.
is this the NFC West. I know there's always these pairings, but I mean, despite Seattle winning the first game this season, I believe, just pulling up the head to head, it's the Rams that have actually owned this series recently. And actually, they did get the cover despite the loss earlier
Hmm.
this season. They
Yep.
covered at 6.5.
Yep.
And I'm just reading here, four straight covers in a row for LA in this
I know.
series.
Yeah.
So I think that six is too many, and I just don't trust the Seattle Seahawks team. So if anything, I would take the 6, and I would consider it for the contest if you would.
Okay, we'll have to see how many picks we have. Let's put a yellow on the Rams.
Okay.
I don't know. It's definitely going to be one of the lower picks here, but I mean,
Yeah.
who cares now? We'll just try to get as many points as we can and make it happen. Um, the last game is the 8 o'clock game, 8:20 for Sunday Night Football. That's going to be Detroit against the Packers. I do think it made a mistake here. I do think they should have put the Titans game here,
Yep.
and they should have flipped, this game to the same time as Seattle because it doesn't really make sense. Now Detroit could be, dead team walking. Green Bay opened as a 4.5 point favorite. It's still 4.5 in the contest. The total went from 48 to 49. The real question here is if Dan Campbell will still play his squad really hard if they are eliminated, which I think they will.
Mhm.
I really do, but I don't know what your thoughts are in this one, Action.
Well, I mean, this number is set at kind of like a 50-50. I would say,
Mhm.
probably even more shaded to the Green Bay side
Yeah,
because of the line in that Seattle Rams game. Because if both teams had motivation, full on motivation, I make this 1 on a neutral, and there's no
sure.
way that I could ever get to 4.5,
Right.
especially given the Green Bay Packers' porous run defense. I mean, I also agree with you. I think that even if Seattle wins, that Detroit is still going to play hard. I don't think it's in Campbell's nature to lay down, especially against a division rival with a chance to knock them out of the playoffs. So I really do side with the Lions here at 4.5, but I have a hard time putting our contest on it just due to the motivational question mark.
Well, let me ask you a question, Action, because I've heard a lot of conflicting information of late, because we always were dogging the pack all for a long time. Has their defense gotten that much better? I heard it's gotten better the last, in this win streak. So now, granted, maybe it's who they're playing,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. And I mean, I think the Packers are going to win this football game, even if they're playing for all the marbles. I think the Packers are going to win. 4.5 is really bad for a divisional matchup.
Yeah.
Um, if this game matters, but I don't know, man. It's interesting. I've heard a lot of juice on the pack in general. Like somebody said, I think they're plus 1,600 or something to win the Super Bowl or no, win the NFC.
Hmm.
And so if you end up taking them now and they make it next week, you're already the odds are going to drop really quickly. Um, so I don't know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I think I might dabble on this situation. Not that I love Aaron Rodgers, I think he's a jerk, but um, this is what he wanted. Game at home, Sunday Night Football, get to the playoffs if we win. Come on, man, he's going to play great. Christian Watson has been great. They started using the running game, and the defense has played a little bit better. Their pass defense, they've used Jair Alexander really well.
Yeah.
He shut down Justin Jefferson last week. I
Mm-hmm.
think the Lions have more of a diverse passing attack, but in the cold in Green Bay, come on, dude. I mean, so I'd be Packers or pass here. I just don't love the number, but I think it's probably going to be a popular, like it's going to be I think everybody's going to bet Green Bay. You know
You
what I mean?
do.
Like the total homer pick, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's wrong.
Yeah. I don't know if I can get there on the Packers.
Mm,
That's tough for me. I, I'm a Lions homer now, I guess.
I know you are.
But I
Where's,
mean,
where's, where's the golf jersey?
even if Alexander lines up against St. Brown,
Sure.
the Lions have other weapons on the
Oh yeah.
outside. Jamison Williams has been playing better, and I can't name any of the other receivers now. But I mean, Goff has been really good this
Yeah.
year, spreading the ball
Sharp,
around.
and they've been throwing to the tight ends, and
Yeah,
they got the running game. Swift has been good. I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think the Lions have gotten better this year. I think this is the game we'll see. We'll see what happens. We can stay away. I'm happy just
yeah.
watch like a fan.
I think I would feel better staying away, to be honest with you.
hmm Yeah, easy enough. Let's see how many picks we've got here. We've gone through. We like the Raiders on the road or at home, getting 9 points against the Chiefs on Saturday afternoon. Have to get that pick in on time.
Yeah.
We kind of lightly shaded the Bengals, minus 3.5 or 7.5 at home against the Ravens. That's on the 1 o'clock window. We also lightly shaded the Falcons, laying 4 against the Buccaneers at home at 1 o'clock. We highlighted the Dolphins getting one at home against the Jets. We liked Washington getting 7 at home against the Cowboys. Seems like a common theme. We like another home team. The Broncos getting 3 or laying 3 against the Chargers. And here's a couple road teams. The Giants getting 14 at the Eagles and the Rams getting 6 at Seattle. I think that's enough to pick from to avoid these games that we're kind of 50-50 on.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll talk it through. Let's give you the contest update here. We've got we didn't do well last week. Actually, it's been 3 tough weeks after our big 5-0 spot. 3-1. So now we're 53%. It's a little lower than we want to be. We can still get close to 60, but not hit the 60%. It's a shame because the top 100 is right at that 60 mark that we targeted. So right now, we're at 6 points off the pace here at 45.5 to the 51.5 at the top 100. So we know what the bogey is. Actually, we just got to do a little bit better here and there. The top dog is sitting at, what did we say, just 68% or so, 68
Yeah.
point something percent at 58.5, which is low for them. So it's been a tough year across the board for people. Let's see if we can finish strong and build for next year. And we are going to do March Madness, everybody. But newsflash, it's expensive this year. Everybody's gouging the prices, so
Yeah.
we got things to look forward to.
The construction exposition is
Yeah.
driving the prices up apparently. Or I mean, first real year out of the pandemic. It's probably part of it too.
Why the hell did they plan it that week?
Yeah. I know.
So I know you're in a rush to get things going, but I wanted to give the
Yeah.
fans, the loyal fans, just a little talk about the national championship game on Monday. We didn't talk about the semis, but some crazy games in the
Epic.
semifinals on New Year's Eve. A couple great games that came down to the wire in both. And now you've got TCU against Georgia. Georgia is laying 12.5 right now. It opened closer to 13.5, 14. That's been bet down. So this game, Georgia's been the prohibitive favorite all season. They have a chance to go back to back, and that doesn't happen too often. But TCU, they've been salty, man, and they're kind of in the underdog role because the Big 12 is not as respected as the SEC. But I mean, let's face it, they came in, they played Michigan, punched them in the mouth, had 2 defensive scores, maybe got help with a bad call at the goal line, but a better seem to be taking the points in this one, huh?
Yeah, they sure are, right? I think you nailed the key point here is that early on, at least up until here Friday evening, the 6th, the underdogs are getting bet here. So
Yeah,
13 and a half down to 12 and a half. It's pretty clear that some folks are taking a position on TCU. And well, how could you not? The way that they just really went after Michigan in the trenches was impressive. And I think that the way Georgia plays football and Michigan, they're kind of cut from the same cloth. They've got the, very stellar line play. And because of that performance against Michigan, I think bettors are seeing that, okay, TCU can handle that type of football. And so there's an expectation that they can take a similar approach against the Bulldogs.
right.
So,
And the total 62.5, given the semifinal games, it seems like the over would be reasonable. They're playing in SoFi, so it's going to be, good
mhm.
conditions. But, you know, most sharp people are smart. They go under. I don't know, actually. And I want TCU. I've been rooting for them. I've seen them play a lot this year. I like the way they play. Sonny Dykes a really good coach. I think Georgia's going to crush them, dude. I don't know what
Really?
to say. Yeah, I think it's going to be sad. I think they're going to beat them bad, and it's going to be it's going to go under the total. I think that, I don't know if it was Harbaugh or what, but it's like Michigan wasn't prepared for that football game.
Yeah.
And the turnovers, two defensive scores, and I think they had a 4th down conversion they didn't get. They made some bad decisions. I don't think Georgia's going to do that. So TCU has to play even better than they did. Maybe the number was wrong at 14, but 12 and a half, I think I take it. And I mean, at first I
Okay.
was like, look, I heard before the Final Four, like TCU was like 7 or 8 to 1 to win the title.
Hmm.
And that's when you take them and then you can hedge in this situation. Of course, I didn't do that. But I think this is, I don't know, man. I'd be surprised if the same thing happened. I think Ohio State played really well against Georgia and they got scared. This time, I think they're not going to play any games and they're going to beat down the Horned Frogs.
I like it. I think that both of those sides, the Georgia side and the under, are going to be a little bit contrarian. So
Mhm.
definitely can't go wrong in that direction in such a big game, primetime Monday night college football championship. I personally put in a couple of props. I'm betting on the TCU quarterback Max Duggan to score an anytime touchdown at
Yeah,
plus 130. He uses his legs a lot and he is prolific at getting into the end zone. So I like the value there. And I also bet the TCU tailback under his rushing yards prop at 67.5. I think that if anything, this Georgia's stout defensive line will press the running backs a little bit and make TCU a passing team. And so that's all I bet so far for Monday night.
like it. I like it. Well, I'll be doing a community presentation at 6 o'clock before the game
Fun.
starts at 6:30 here Central. So I'll be talking to my Chinese brethren that I'm doing this project in Chinatown. So hopefully I'll get to catch the second half. But I'm sure you have plans to watch the game somewhere.
Yeah, nothing really planned for Monday night yet. Maybe venture on down to MGM Detroit, see if I can catch it in the sports book or something.
Nice, nice. For the weekend, tomorrow is the big game night for the late belated celebration for me. You know that I'm usually the minus money favorite, but I haven't won in a couple of years, action. So,
Uh-oh.
we'll see if I can influence that this year, but we should be a good time. And then Sunday I'll be working and watching football. So hopefully you have a nice weekend plan. I know you had skiing last weekend and you got home safe.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Laying low a little bit this weekend. It's kind of our off week before we travel again next week. So we're going to take it easy, watch some football, basketball, hopefully.
Nice, nice. Well, hey, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter, at Side Action Podcast on Instagram, and follow me at Wegs on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right, everybody, good luck this weekend and be safe.